All right, let's talk about regime change. Joining us now, we've got Steve Forbes, Forbes Media Chairman and Editor-in-Chief. We've got Rich Lowry, Editor-in-Chief of the National Review. And we've got Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business Senior Correspondent, best in the business. Gentlemen, thank you. We're going to kind of go lightning, but here's a little clip from my interview with Reza Pahlavi, the Crown Prince of Iran. Just talking regime change, see what you think.
Even yesterday's reformists don't believe anymore in reforming this regime. They have come to the conclusion that we have to go beyond this regime. And that creates a national element of rallying around the purpose of putting an end to this regime towards a democratic alternative, which will then guarantee not only to the Iranian citizenry all of their rights, but also will put us on a path to change course completely.
This sounds good. I mean, he came out strong. Denuclearization, I put it to him, denuclearization, democracy, free elections, okay. The Persian diaspora will refinance reconstruction. The problem, Steve Forbes, is getting to regime change, getting past the Revolutionary Guards, getting past the paramilitary secret police, et cetera, is not going to be easy.
It's not going to be easy, but I think the Iranian people, the Iranian army, not the Republican Guard, but the Iranian army officers see there's no future with this regime. So if they get rid of all the nuclear capabilities, the missiles, the factories that turn out these weapons, then I think the people feel that we're not going to abandon them as we did in 2009, didn't give them support when they went to the streets a few years later, that this time it's for real, they'll do it. And one key thing, it may sound frivolous, but I think it's very important, keep the IMF out when Iran begins to rebuild.
That's true. But why should that be our objective? I mean, the premise is that we have to have regime change.
Well, that isn't our objective. That's his objective.
It shouldn't be ours.
But that's not our objective. That's got to come from Iran.
Yeah, our objective should be, in my view, as someone who's lived through the Gulf Wars and lived through Iraq and seen friends come back broken from Iraq, is that we should not be involved in nation building. We should have a clear objective, one, and a very narrow, I think, objective. It should be to stop their nuclear program. And we should do whatever it takes, even if it's, dropping one of those big bombs on that one fortification. But we should not be thinking regime change.
So far, that hasn't cropped up in any of Mr. Trump's thing. And what's interesting, Rich Lowry, on top of all this, poll taken was in the New York Post, 65% of MAGA Republicans support Trump. And in fact, the Republican Party supports Trump. Those people that voted for him in 2024, something like some huge number, 90%. So I agree with Charlie. It's a limited option. It's a limited exercise. But it's going to happen, isn't it?
Well, I think more likely than not, but who knows, But I agree with Charlie. Focus on the strategic objective of ending the nuclear program. If there ends up being a mass movement in the streets that creates something better, great. But that shouldn't be our objective. And in terms of this discussion of a MAGA civil war over this, Trump is MAGA. The influencers who support him aren't MAGA, right? Trump is. And he'd be pushing against an open door if he strikes Iran with this limited objective. Almost all Republicans will support him if he does it.
Steve Forbes, different subject, lightning round. Social Security going bankrupt in 2034, according to the latest estimates. What do you make of that? Us old folks, that means troubles me.
I know, I'm just thinking, just a few years
We're all eligible.
Breaking news, Charlie.
Rich Lowry's the only guy that's not getting Social Security on this panel. What do we do about it, Steve Forbes?
The family stations, I'll just say BS. One is the politicians in Washington are not going to cut off benefits, even if they have to go to the general budget. Second thing is a point that you've been making is, what are their assumptions on growth? They're way below. If you get this economy going right, which we did for the most part for 200 years, then you get 3.5% growth, and that gives you the time to make changes, like getting a new system in for younger people.
How about getting, I want to have a 401k private savings accounts? What's wrong with that, Charlie Gasparino?
The last time we spoke about this when? It was George Bush. Laughed at.
It was Bush, by the way.
And I was like, please do it. And by the way, it was like, what year was that? And think about how
2006.
Okay, how much has the market appreciated since 2006?
Right. That's a key point.
I mean, so, yeah, we should do that. I just don't think I don't think Congress has I was going to use a bad word.
The cojones.
Yes, both you and Steve.
I wasn't going to use cojones, but
cojones. We can use cojones. Rich Lowry, I've got another one now. David Malpass was on the show last night. And, of course, everybody in Trump world is angry at the Fed for not cutting interest rates. And Malpass called it the Biden Fed. The Biden Fed. Now, there are 2 Trump appointees on that. I'm going to you because I know you're a monetary expert.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are 2 Trump appointees that do not dissent from these Fed minutes. They're all 12-0, 12-0. I call it bureaucratic group speak. But how come the Biden Fed cut rates before Biden's election, but the Biden Fed under Jerome Powell will not cut rates now, even though inflation is a lot lower?
So this is unfair, Larry, because if I knew in advance I had to talk about the Fed and interest rates on TV, I'd call you first, right? So, but I can't do that right now. Your phone's not on. Look, I think this is a bit of a tweener, this question, but the case is getting stronger, certainly, that the Fed should cut rates. And I believe eventually they will.
Charlie,
no, you never know.
What do you hear, Charlie?
Well, I mean, there's 2 things. Number one, we don't know if tariffs are going to cause this inflationary spike.
Why are the Fed so worried about tariffs? We're just a little teensy-weensy tariff. 10% tariff. It's raising a lot of money. It's not causing any inflation.
That might be a famous last word.
It's just a teensy tariff so far.
Okay, so why I don't understand. Okay, you might be right, and I hope you are right. Okay, so I hope it doesn't lead to inflation, but it may. What I don't understand is you and I were at the Economic Club of New York. You were actually the moderator, with Scott Bessent, and he said, I finally got Trump, I'm paraphrasing, but not by much, finally got Trump to stop, or the president, you can call him Trump, the president, to stop worrying about short-term interest rates and focus on the 10-year and the 30-year, where all consumer rates are pegged off of. What happened to that?
Well.
What happened?
Why
doesn't Trump listen to Bessent? It doesn't matter that much.
Why doesn't Jay Powell listen to Trump? Trump's got the story right, if you ask me. He's got the story completely right.
Bessent said not to care about it.
Steve Forbes, Trump enjoys enormous support right now. His polls are very high. I talked about MAGA world supporting Trump, no matter what a few outliers might say. They support him in Israel. He's on the right side of all these 80-20 issues. I was talking to Kevin McCarthy earlier in the show. I mean, he's like taken over the center. The Democrats are so far left. Trump is now occupying a huge center the Democrats used to have. And I think that with the tax cut bill going through and a decent economy, the Republicans are going to do very well in the midterm elections next year. Nobody believes me on this. I don't care what history shows. They can win next year's midterms.
They can win next year's midterms if the economy, as you point out, does well. That means they've got to beef up that tax bill, because when those tariffs do start to hit, as eventually they will, the economy is going to need that help. 10% sales tax, not good for the economy, my opinion.
Yes, I know. You don't like it. No, that's fair. I understand.
But that's why they should strengthen this tax bill. And I don't know why they can't cut personal income tax rates, why they can't cut the capital gains tax rate when it brings in revenue
immediately. That's the second reconciliation bill and the third reconciliation bill.
Whatever they do, make it strong, because when you have a strong economy, guess what happens?
I
you can win elections.
Get this through. I mean, I think they have a hard enough time just with this one. You might disagree.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. They'll get it.
First things first.
But Larry, this is something you hit on a key point. People don't realize this. Trump is a Republican moderate. He shifted the Republican Party, and he's ideologically going back to the foreign policy debate. He's not a radical interventionist. He's not an isolationist. He's right in the middle. He wants mass deportation, but he listens to business. Right in the middle.
This is the key point.
And you know what?
He occupies the center.
Yes.
He's a common sense guy. He tilts conservative on a lot of free enterprises. But he has out-jocked the Democrats. They don't know what hit them on
And he believes men are men and women are women.
Yes.
And the Democratic Party still hasn't gotten their arms around that really simple thing.
They can't admit
Men are men. Man, Charlie Gasparino always hits the nail on the head. Right here on the set. There he is, Charlie Gasparino and Rich Lowry and Steve Forbes. Men are men.